Story is what binds us as humans. Our stories make us who we are. And when we share them with others, we create a magical, connective spark. We're delving into the lives of interesting people and hearing the stories that make them, them. And through this experience, you might even get to learn a little about what makes you, you as well. Welcome to the Thoughts Drawn Out Storyverse. My guest for you on the Storyverse today is none other than Timothy Anderson. Tim is a friend of mine. We have worked together in an innovation lab and on several projects since. He is just generally a fabulous human. He has just ideas pouring out of his head. And I know he's just one of those people that you go to bounce ideas off. He's always got a yes and idea. So according to his LinkedIn profile, he is the FinTech Queensland co-founder, hackathon facilitator. He is a human-centered design and customer experience expert, as well as a business strategy designer, which he does through his company 7/8. He is also a lover of whiskey, amongst many other interesting hobbies. So I sat down with Tim today and we talked about all kinds of things, from living intentionally to being a designer to making innovation work to Michael J. Fox and time travel. It was a really cool conversation. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Tim. Please make sure to hit like on this video and share it with your network if you think it's something that the people around you would also enjoy. And if you don't want to miss any future Storyverse episodes, make sure to hit subscribe as well. Thank you. Enjoy my conversation with Tim. Hey, Tim.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. Welcome to Thoughts Drawn Out Storyverse.
Thanks for having me. It's fantastic to be here.
I'm really excited to have you as a guest, not only because you are my friend, but because you are one of the most interesting people I know.
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure. But
I feel like we need one of those morning show coffee mugs.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to work on that. Yep, I'll take a note. We need coffee mugs.
Merch. It's all about the merch, isn't it?
It's all about the merch. Okay, yep, noted. I'll have some Post-its ready to capture any other ideas that you come up with.
Oh, and I'm full of them, yeah.
I know. So what I would love to do is just share some stories today about what makes you tick and what makes you who you are. And at the start of a Storyverse episode, I go to the story deck and pick a card to give you a place to start. So this is a story to commence with. So for you today, Tim, I have chosen the card, "The time I learnt I had a friend where I least expected it." So I thought this was appropriate for you, given you are my friend and you have a tendency to collect people.
Yeah.
That's been my experience of you. You know a person who's done every weird thing imaginable. So I figured there's probably been multiple places where you found a friend you least expected there to be one.
Yeah, it's an interesting, it's really, really interesting one. I think you got friends everywhere. People, and I don't care what you tell yourself, everyone has friends everywhere. So I think as humans, we're kind of wired to look out for danger. So we're kind of skewed to that black hat nature. And we're going and in out to ourselves, everyone hates me. So therefore, we don't naturally know that there's people love us out there. And it's kind of weird. We're always thinking that people are thinking bad things about us. And little do we know that they are too busy thinking about people thinking bad things about them to be worried about thinking about bad stuff about you.
So true.
Yeah. We're all in this downward spiral of negativity together, basically. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think for me, where I really started to learn this was back in, well, let's just say 2016. I decided that I was just going to say yes to everything. So people would come to me with a question and I would go, yeah, I can help out. So I was deliberately leaning into the positivity. I had a mentor at that particular time, and she was always running around doing so much stuff. And I was like, how do you fit it in? And her honest answer was, I don't know. I just say yes, and I work out the calendar Tetris later. Because that's what was stopping me. Number one, I thought, not good enough. People won't need me. They don't need me. They're smarter than me. So they don't need help. I'd just be getting in the way. So there's one story I was telling myself. And the other one was, I can't physically do everything. And in not opting into the positive of yes, I was just saying no to almost everything. So I opted into yes, and then I just started doing lots of things for everyone. And one of the things I would do would be facilitating hackathons, kind of like the startup weekendy things. You get a whole group of people into a room who maybe want to start a business. Maybe there's a problem that needs to be solved, and they form diverse teams. And in 48 hours, they pitch back an idea of how they're going to solve that problem or how they're going to do this business. And I did that for trying to attack homelessness with tech refugees, so trying to come up with solutions for people who are displaced. And I've done it for a couple of businesses, trying to make the city a better place. So, and I've done that lots, and then started helping out just businesses. They'd come to you with, hey, what about this? And I realized that they think they think the same as me, as in, I'm not good enough, or I don't think I know what I'm doing here. So it was kind of like a leveler. And then when I realized that, I had a friend when I least expected it, I was walking along Queen Street. It was between Creek and Edward. It was almost outside. It was right outside the UQ executive building there. So just before you get to the post office, where that really weird zebra crossing is, that's really awkward if you're driving down that street, because as people are trying to cross the road, it's a never-ending stream. And there's kind of like this chicken thing where if you're in the car, you've got to stop for pedestrians, but the pedestrians aren't being nice to let cars through, so it backs up. And anyway, so that kind of is a really interesting place, because it's a frustrating place. And I was frustrated at this point in time. And as I'm walking along, this guy came up to me and went, "Hey, Tim, how you going?" And I was like, "Hey, you, mate," because one of the issues is facilitating these hackathons, and with all of these people in a very short space of time, I met heaps of people, and I hadn't actually met them. They knew who I was because I was the key storyteller in that event, but I didn't get a chance to connect with everyone or meet everyone or know their names, and I'm kind of like their friend. Okay, have we met? I was like going through my mind and trying to hold the conversation so that I didn't offend or anything. And this person just blurted it out and just went, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know," he was waiting at the bus stop that was right there, saw me, and he's like, "Hey Tim, I just want to let you know that that weekend basically changed my life. And from doing that, you inspired me to change what I was doing. I actually got the courage to go talk to my boss, and we set up this new thing, and everything's going fantastically. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know."
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a friend right there waiting at the bus stop.
Yeah. It was just interesting. Can't remember his name right now too, because there's so many people.
I
but
do love though that the prompt was the time I learned I had a friend where I least expected it, and your answer occurred in both a physical place, a place in time, and within the mental context of the story you were telling yourself at the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fabulous.
It's interesting. It actually reminds me a lot of my dad. My dad had a philosophy of favors.
Yeah.
He'd always be doing favors for people. And therefore, I'd say, oh, where are we going? Oh, we need to pick up this thing. Okay, how are we going to pick up this thing? He's, I just got a guy who owes me a favor. And it wasn't that he was keeping a record, like a ledger of, I've done this for somebody, so therefore they need to do this for me. And if they don't, then I'm going to hate on them in my mind and go, oh, that guy owes me. It wasn't anything like that. It was just that he had this very pay it forward, or this creating value in the community sort of view. And I don't know, it sort of helped me out a hell of a lot to get into my head that just do nice things for people and, nice things will happen back. That element, but it was more like this community and being safe within that community. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though I had that lesson and I didn't really understand that until that day where I went, oh yeah, I've been sort of dealing in this kind of community like he was dealing in this community, and sort of good things are happening. Yeah.
That's amazing. So it was kind of, the story was there for your whole life, but it took those other things to align for it to really kind of come into realization in your mind that that's what you were doing. You were already doing it.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like being, the unconscious competence.
Yes. Yeah.
Certain things that people do and you don't know that you're doing them. And sometimes you're being unconsciously incompetent, not that you don't know what you don't know, but you don't know that you're things up.
Yeah, that happens too. Yep.
You're just going through life being unconscious, being unintentional. And that's kind of cool when you're in a positive frame. But I think that there's this really interesting point of life where you actually stop being unconscious about being so competent, where you go, what am I actually doing? Why am I doing that? And you tend to get a hell of a lot more value out of that conscious competence, that reflection, and that being intentional than you do just going about your days.
Yeah, coming at it with some mindfulness.
Yeah, definitely. So I was doing this this course. So there's a group called Peak Persona, and it's all about basically getting people in their peak form, right? As in how do we get yourself into a state where you're achieving the best life that you can have, or doing the best that you can do. And it is all about getting things in alignment, not necessarily a balance. Anyway, a lot of mindfulness and being persona-wise, they talk about the clothes that you wear. And so during this exercise, I am getting up in the morning, I'm going, okay, what clothes am I going to wear today? Who am I meeting with? How do I want them to feel about me? Like, what's the character that I need them to see for me to achieve what I need to achieve today? So it was going through everything, you know me with the 2 watches and whatnot. So and the flamingo shirt or the flamingo shoes, and I'm like, okay, so this is the character that I am being today. These are the clothes that I'm going to wear so that I reflect that and I feel like I'm reflecting that. So it's not necessarily just about an image thing of what they're going to see, but it's also about how am I going to feel so I can play that character or be comfortable. Do I need to have, that comfy hoodie on or the slippers on to make you feel comfortable?
And I guess whatever you kind of portray is going to get reflected back to you. So there's an element of that too. It's not, as you say, it's just a vanity thing. It's about what am I putting out there?
Yeah. And it was, so the conscious competence part of it is that being consciously aware of what I was doing at the end of this sort of reflection, this exercise, I just went, you know what? I wore the exact same clothes that I would have wore if I wasn't doing this exercise. However, in going through the exercise of being deliberate and being intentional about the reason why I'm wearing this is X, it actually changed my mindset. And, you sort of sit up a bit taller, or you move with a bit more intention or speed, or even slow down. It was really, really interesting. And so one of the people who was taking this course, Peter, she always talked about a watch. If I'm wearing this watch, I am in business mode. If I am wearing this watch, I am in social mode. And it was like a trigger for her. And yeah, I'm the same. If I'm wearing this watch, I am doing this activity. If I am wearing these two watches on my arm, I am doing this activity. And yeah, I just found that to be a really interesting trigger.
And the Casio calculator watch, what's that for?
So that's the two watches.
Okay.
So we've got the black one usually goes on this arm, and the silver one goes on this arm. So the black one being the one that Michael J. Fox wore in Back to the Future, and the silver one, exact same sort of model, but it just looks more classy in business. And to me, what they signify, especially wearing them together, is that I will wear them when I'm facilitating a design sprint or facilitating an innovation exercise, because we're talking about the future, i.e. Back to the Future, but it's all also business. It's not all creative.
Oh, so you get that duality.
Yeah.
It also puts me in mind of like having a watch mullet.
Business in the front, party in the back. Yes, yeah, it's kind of like that. And it also started out in a bit of an exercise of rewiring my brain as well.
Oh, nice. Tell me about that. How did you rewire your brain?
Well, before I started the intention of wearing the two watches to promote this thing, it started out with me wearing my watch on my other arm. Mm-hmm. Because your instinct is to go, oh, there's your watch. And I was just thinking, if you get out of that unconsciousness and you consciously have to think about it, what is that doing to your brain? So, now I have to look at this one. And then I would go, well, so it's all constantly changing the movement. So I suppose I'm not getting stuck in a rut and just thinking unconsciously. It's all a exercise in intention, mindfulness, and being intentional.
Being intentional.
Yeah, essentially.
Fabulous. So where else do you apply this approach to being intentional? How else does that kind of come out in your day-to-day?
I think that's the hard thing, because it doesn't come naturally. Mm. I think there's so much in us that is just instinct that we need to stop and really think about, why am I doing this? So I do have, or I'm setting up some cadences in my life where there's reflection happening, but I'm trying to do that in everything that I do as well. And I think that there's interesting part about it. I don't want to get stuck thinking. I want to have a bias towards action and doing, but I don't want to just be doing for doing's sake. But then I don't want us to spend too much thinking time, because then I'm not doing. So, you get this kind of a contradiction. So, it's trying to get my alignment happening so that I am acting with, less haste, more speed, or less speed, more haste, but being really intentional about the direction that I'm going.
Yeah, fabulous.
But, I think it comes down, it motivates me. It goes back to the Simon Sinek, why,
Yeah, always being clear on why as that central point, and then the what and the how flow naturally from there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Tim, I know you from back in the day working as CX designers together.
Yes.
I'm fascinated. What led you into a world of design?
Okay, there's this really interesting line from Neil Gaiman's The Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
Great comic. I'm like over the moon right now because it just got announced that they're going to turn it into a Netflix series.
Cool.
Which is great. I've been waiting for like a movie to come out about this thing for like ever. Great series. Go read it. And it talks about some angels that fell out of heaven. No, actually, maybe it wasn't Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, but it was when he wrote this book with Terry Pratchett called Good Omens. Same philosophy, i.e. there's angels. And the line around this angel was, it wasn't necessarily that he fell out of heaven, it was more so he leaned left and then stumbled or something like that. It was really unintentional and accidental, so he didn't necessarily go up against God and end up getting cast out of heaven. That's the same with me when it came to the CX. And I think in anything that I did, it was more like I was trying to do stuff with action and it just happened. I didn't decide, it just was there. And I remember before I was doing that CX design role in the innovation lab, I was working in a strategic innovation department, and I was working with some people who were what I would refer to as actual designers. And it was interesting because one of them just went, okay, Tim, so you do this and you do this and you do this. And I go, yeah, that's what I do. And she goes, you're a designer. I was like, oh, am I? It's kind of like Dumbo learning he could fly, I think. I don't know.
So all the pieces were there. You just hadn't kind of identified what it meant to put them all together.
Yeah. And I don't know if this, like, everyone thinks in this way, but from a corporate perspective, is like, okay, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? What job do you want to be doing? What role? You know, what's your title? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't look at it so yes, I want to be the head of this, or I want to be the CEO of that, or I want to be, the manager.
Grand poobah.
Yeah. It was more like, here are the activities that I like to do. I don't care what the role is, just as long as I'm doing these activities. Yeah. And yeah, I don't think the corporate system kind of like that. It was like, yeah, but what's the role? I was like, I don't know. What do you got? What do you got that does these? Well, you should know. And I'm like, well, maybe we just create something. Maybe we do something different. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about you and working with you in particular is your willingness to go, I understand the parameters. I understand the rules. That's great. But I think we should do this.
Yeah. I was actually reflecting on something I read about hierarchy. That's what it was. It was this really interesting article, and the title of it was, I'm going to stuff this up. I'll have to look it up and I'll send it to you. We can put it in the comments down below.
Yeah.
It was essentially, ideas don't give a shit about hierarchy. And it got me thinking about flat structures versus hierarchical structures and the whole balance versus alignment. And I think my philosophy is it's not necessarily like a flat structure of a corporate is better than a hierarchical structure, but it was the understanding the parameters in which you work. You can have a flat structure and they go, oh yes, it's autonomous. But if people don't know what they're supposed to do, they ain't going to do shit. Or they're going to run in a different direction. So I think regardless of what structure you have, it comes back to that understanding, what are the design principles of your job? Cool, excellent. That's the playing field. That's where we're at. That's, I suppose, where my philosophy on that is. Right.
But then you also have the courage to work out where that line is and step onto the outside of it, which I think is something a lot of people aspire to.
Yeah, I think earlier in life, I had a lot of asshole bosses. And I came to the realization that life's too short. I ain't going to work for them. And I would just quit a job. And not that I quit all the time, but it was just like, hang on a second, this goes against my values. I'm out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't care if I didn't have a job to go to, because, you know, there's something out there, you know, there's always something out there. And my happiness and health was more important to me than a role. So I think I have developed, or I just have a natural instinct to call bullshit and stuff. The Emperor's New Clothes is one of my most favorite stories. I am the little kid who's going, "You're naked, dude. You realize that, don't you?" I'm not saying that being naked is right or wrong, because I can take my pants off too, free and breezy. But you got to understand that you're naked. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually a really valuable skill that I've seen you so many times bring to a conversation or a piece of work, is that ability to call bullshit, to call it as you see it, to invite the conversations that aren't always the easy conversations, but they're the right conversations. I think that's probably one of your strengths that you always bring to your work.
Superpower for pissing people off. Because you're right, it's an awkward conversation, because especially in a corporate perspective, I'm not going to say people have an agenda, but people have a job to do, and their KRAs, their KPIs say that I need to get this thing done, and therefore they go and do it. And I've seen people that are going to go, I know this is a shit idea, but I've been told that I have to do it. And when I call bullshit, you can just see them go, oh, fuck, this has just created umpteen.
I gotta do it.
But I understand where you're coming from. But why did you have to do that? Couldn't we just get this thing done and I could move on to the next thing that's going to suck my soul? I'm like, no, we can't.
But that has to lend itself really well to a world of innovation, right? Like when you are trying to actually go into a new place, create genuine human connection, and push into places of innovation that are beyond that status quo, that's where that's got to excel, right? What's your experience of that?
Oh, yeah. Not naming names or anything like that. A really good example of it is, so I was given the task to do some customer experience design for an experiment. And in doing that experiment, I went, okay, what are the assumptions that we're making? i.e., what are the things that we need to prove or disprove really quickly, so that when we move forward, we know we're moving forward in the right direction. So I basically designed some experiments that would prove that if customers didn't do this, this isn't going to work. And I didn't even get to do that experiment because people went, whoa, you're basically saying that my baby and the idea that I had is wrong. Like, so I had a conversation with some friends on the weekend, and they're like, I know I need to go to the doctor. So we know we need to do these experiments, Tim, to prove the case so that we don't lose a lot of money. But if I go to the doctor and they tell me that I'm dying of cancer, I don't think I can handle that. So I don't want to know. I know I won't go to the doctor. And that was the case that I had. So I had to dial it back. Killed me on the inside. So I redeveloped it and did a few more experiments to say, well, if we did do it, how are people going to react on it? But my gut was just telling me this is not going to work, and here are the reasons why it's not going to work. Anyway, they did take my advice and change some of the product so it was less sucky. But then, interesting thing is, someone wrote a really good press release, and the thing won an award here or there, but within a year it was dead.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have been a thing. They went off in this direction and the evidence pointed this, but it's sunk cost bias. And it was being in that corporate system was like, we need to do something. I think the biggest one for me, and this is probably on a corporate rant, I'm not necessarily saying corporates are bad, but it's the beast and it travels in a where it does certain things. But, you see companies who will release a statement to the marketplace going, we are going to do this. And that thing that they decided to do isn't necessarily working. But I can't tell the market that it's not working, and I can't change my mind. We got to double down on this. We got to flog this dead horse and keep going and going and going. Or maybe we just don't talk about it and we do this other pretty thing over here and do this magical thing, and let's never talk about that again, and let's hope that no one ever brings it up again. I would really love to see a day where a CEO could come out in a corporate setting and go, we decided that our plan was to do X. We were halfway into that, or we were a quarter way into that, and realized that that wasn't the thing that we needed to do, or it wasn't quite working for us. So instead of spending and more time and more resources on that, we're actually going to cut it and we're going to go over here. Now, you do hear about that where people, cut their losses and we're going to sell down this part of the business and do that. But it's always like too far down the road. We need to move a little bit more quickly. Rant ended.
So, those stories you do hear out of startups. So I've just been listening to a podcast about how Netflix came to be, and it was quite the story of test and learn, change this, change that, attempt this, no, that didn't work, come over here, try that. So startups can do that. And we know corporates would like to do that, but they're a big beast and it's a different beast. What are your thoughts on how do you take that gold that comes from the startup approach, and how do you actually make it work inside a corporate that's big and complex?
Yeah, I agree. You see the good stories of startups are ones who do that. So it's not all startups do what Netflix done, and they're not the only story out there. But I think the skill in that is being wedded to the problem, not wedded to your solution. And that's where your sunk cost bias comes from. Or, so corporate world will go, we've invested all of this money, time, energy into the solution that we feel will work for our customers and solve our customers' problem, instead of going, what are we actually doing? Like, how are we solving for it? Like, what's the problem here? So one comes to mind at the moment is Fast. So local Brizzy guy called Dom Holland, he noticed that his mother-in-law, I think, forgive me, Dom, if you ever see this and I'm getting the story wrong, I'm just going to make it up. Anyway, so his mother-in-law had issues remembering her password, and he thought, great, imagine if we do this password thing so you never have to remember them. And that's where he started off. And he rapidly did this test and learn pivot, and now it's not necessarily about password, it's about a one-click checkout on the internet. So similarly, I don't know the full story of Slack, but my understanding was Slack was a games development company. And now, as you know, it just does this communications platform. So, I think it's just being open to the idea that your idea is not necessarily the best solution. It goes to that philosophy of, if you aren't ashamed of your first iteration, you didn't do it quick enough.
You spent too long polishing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that there's some teams out there who have a design principle or a working philosophy in their teams who go, if you bring a polished, finished thing to a team meeting, you get reprimanded for that. You need to bring the rawest, uncut thing, because number one, that's going to promote the fact that we're moving fast and we're breaking things. Number two, diversity of thought, because you're bringing ideas early to the team, so it's not just the world according to Tim or Dave or Joan or Mary or whoever it is. It's like, this is a team effort. The diversity of thought gets there.
Yeah, fabulous. So you have this immense knowledge of all things kind of human-centered design, lean startup, innovation. I mean, I love to pick your brain because you just know so much in this topic. But how are you applying it these days? What does a typical day in the life of Tim look like?
I'm trying to formulate a typical day in the life of Tim right now. I've just been having fun. And it sounds really interesting. So what I'm doing at the moment is trying to get a bit more intentional about what I'm doing. I went through a phase through COVID where I was just trying lots of little things. So my intention was to, hey, could I do this? Could I do that? Could I do that? And not could I, but more so what's actually going to make my heart sing, What am I going to feel cool about? So where I've landed at the moment is that I'm a generalist, all right? I like doing lots of things. And I'm pretty decent at doing lots of things as well. So I'm trying to go, great, how the hell am I going to do that? One thing I will be doing is co-founding a fintech startup. And then another thing that I'm going to be doing is sharing my journey about who Tim is and what he does, and be intentional. So I'll be sort of launching a thing that is affectionately or draft working title called Lots of Little. And it's all about what are all the little things that you can do to compound and have a big impact.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. About a year ago, as you probably would have seen, I went through this program called Winter Warrior. Unfortunately, COVID got in the way, so I delayed it all. But one thing I did to try to make some accountability for what I was doing there was post things on social media every single day. And probably about 3 months ago, I noticed that there was this person who was just starting the program as well, and they were in another country, and they must have looked at a hashtag, and they were going through and kind of like an X-Week, going way back to the very beginning, and I could see them and they were liking all this stuff. It was kind of like, oh, creepy. Oh no, hang on, that's a really positive thing. They're obviously investigating what the journey might look like for them. And in doing that, I went back and I saw all of these things that I was doing, and right now I'm getting all of these notifications like, this time last year, this is what you were doing, which is a bit of a double-edged sword because I sort of fell off the wagon a bit when it came to the exercise, but it was good to see the journey that I was on. So I was thinking, you know what, I really want to capture that journey because people were getting a lot out of it, and I got a hell of a lot out of it as well. So yes, Winter Warrior is still on. In 6 months' time, I step into a cage and have an MMA fight. So it's going to be awesome.
Wow, that sounds scary to me. So what is Winter Warrior for anyone who hasn't heard of it, and what does that mean? Like, what are you actually doing?
Oh, cool. So Winter Warrior was started by this guy called Richie Cranny. He's an expat in Australia, and he is an MMA coach. So he said, why aren't people doing this or for general fitness, mental and physical fitness? It's not just that you have to be, Conor McGregor or Nate Diaz and be in the UFC. This is kind of like yoga, except you get punched in the face. That's my.
There's a good t-shirt.
Yeah. So essentially, he went, I am going to prove that anyone can do this, I am going to train 4 people for free for 6 months. And there's only one condition. At the end of that, they step into the ring and they have a fight. He did that, and I think one of the people in his cohort is now the CEO of his company. that he's founded. So essentially, it's a program where they go to gyms all around the world now. I think they're in 7 countries, and there's gyms all over the world. And they train people for 20 weeks, and at the end of that 20 weeks, you get into a ring. It's like get up. So for me, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would go to the gym, which is on the other side of town. I would roll around on some mats, get crush people, dodge bullets, and I would do that for 5 days a week. Sometimes 6. I'd go on Saturday, and then sometimes there'd be some Tuesday night sparring sessions. And yeah, it's a fantastic experience. There's a big community element to it. There isn't all this macho, It's more of a how can I help you get better, mentally tough. And it's really interesting, the journey that I went on through it. At first, my philosophy was everything I do would be focused on, will this stop me from getting punched in the face? It's a very avoidance mentality. The philosophy of, will this make the boat go faster?
Yes.
Yeah, so my philosophy was similar to that, but will this stop me from getting punched in the face? And then it sort of changed, and it wasn't necessarily about stopping yourself from being punched in the face. It was like, how am I going to get better at taking a punch? How am I going to build that resilience? So that was a life lesson. So it's like, because life is going to punch you in the face, right?
It does that. Yeah, absolutely.
In stopping life from punching you in the face, you basically got to lock yourself up in your house and close the doors and wrap yourself in cotton wool. But then having said that, that's hard too. How are you going to pay the bills? Life is always going to find a way to punch you in the face. So how do you build resilience to that? I saw a really good meme the other day that was all about choose your hard. Being married is hard. Being divorced is hard. Choose your hard. Being fit is hard. Being unfit is hard. So choose your hard. It's a choice. Yeah.
Because you can do hard things.
Yeah. Or the hard things will happen to you. So,
That's fabulous. That reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Mae West, I think, who said, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough."
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. Like, hard things are going to happen. Life happens.
I saw another
one. Trying to avoid the hard things, just get amongst it.
Yeah, I saw another meme that was about that. You only live once, just the other day, and I was like, whoa, that kind of blows my mind. Takes us from the negative view to a potentially positive view or an optimistic view. So there's 2 guys sitting down, looking off into the distance, and one guy goes, "Yeah, you only live once. Attack it, go for it." And the other guy goes, No. You only die once. You live every single day.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And every day is a choice in how you go up.
Yep. Yeah. There's no such thing as tomorrow. There's no such thing as yesterday. There is only today. Tomorrow is today's yesterday.
Yes, I feel like calling you Yoda.
It's just all about what are you going to do today. Don't shit on yourself for not doing it yesterday.
Yeah.
Just do it today.
Show up.
Yeah.
Show up and let life punch you in the face.
Exactly.
Very cool. So another thing that I'd love to talk about with you is just the journey that it took to get you to this amazing being where you are now, because you've done so many interesting things. Like you've been an entrepreneur, you've traveled a lot. I know you've been to Japan and have relationships there. Tell me a little bit about the journey of Tim that led to you being the amazing being we see before us.
Yeah, I got to say, the one thing that has got me to where I am today, and having had all of the experiences that I've had, is just a leaning towards the positive. Now, I'm not a positive person. I'm not one of those people that wake up in the morning going, yay, fantastic, isn't the world great? I usually roll out of bed, sometimes falling on the floor, grunting and moaning. If you ask my wife, she'll go, no, Tim, you don't understand how hard it is to wake you up in the morning and get you going. It's kind of like the door creaks open slowly, a hand comes through with a coffee mug, puts it on the bedside table, and then runs out. I'm not there. But what I did do was I went, what the hell? Let's lean into it. So, one of the first investments I made, I was very, very, let's say, young. And what had happened was a block of units next door to my house came up for sale. And I knew someone who was looking for investments. And I was going to give him a call. And I dialed the number back in the old days with the rotary thing. And it was just about to start ringing, and I hung up and I went, hang on a second, why don't I do this? So I did. And then I think just leaning in that positivity, within the space of, 4 years, I own a number of units across town in my own house. And it was just that one moment of just going, why not? Let's investigate it. What's the worst that could happen? I decide that, yes, I want to try to buy this. I go to the bank, can't get funding. Oh, well, But if I had have had that moment in the beginning and say, oh, no, I'm too young. I didn't even have a full-time job. Well, that's probably saying more about the banking system than anything else.
Maybe.
But anyway, that's what happened. And it was, I remember a newsletter coming home from my first kid's school saying they were looking for billets for international students. So why not? Why not open my home to someone from there? Which has fundamentally changed my outlook on the world. And now I've kind of got these faux kids all over the world, grandkids in some cases too. Yeah. So, it's just that, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
You've followed the why not for opportunities that presented themselves. And that's what's led you through this varied and interesting path to where you are now, loving what you do.
Yeah. And I think I just like people. I'm an introvert. Which is very strange. No, it's true. I am definitely an introvert. However, I like people. I used to have this saying, it's like, I like persons, I don't like people. The big groups.
Oh, no. That makes perfect sense to me. Yes. Persons,
I like people, not so much. They tend to become smelly and rowdy when you get them in groups.
Yes.
So I remember when I first started working in a contact center, people who were working around me, and this is probably relevant for a lot of contact center environment, people don't spend a lot of time in that role because it's the same thing over and over again. Well, that's the story they're telling themselves. The way I saw it, and it wasn't I was trying to convince myself of something that wasn't real, but for me it was like, there's a different person coming in every time. Because when you think about it, any role, regardless of whether you're in a contact center or anywhere, it's the same thing day after day after day. Like I used to work in retail, hospitality. Hospitality, you're just doing the same thing over and over again. But there's the stories, the people, is completely different every single time. So I don't know. I'm just wired that way, I guess.
Really cool. And it's just, as you say, the attitude you choose to show up with.
Yeah.
Cool. So my last question is just an opportunity for you to do a little bit more kind of reflecting back. If you could tell one story or one anecdote or give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be? Oh,
see, that's a really hard one because, the Michael J. Fox, space-time continuum, you don't want to, like, so if I go back in time and tell past Tim, then the Tim now isn't going to be where he is, so that just messes with my mind in a big way.
Which answers my question in such a Tim way. That was the perfect Tim answer to that question.
Good.
I don't want to mess with the space-time continuum because it might not get me to where I am right now.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, for me, I always go back and just go, 1 second, sorry. Oh, that was B-roll. We're going to cut that part. Yeah, for me, I always go back and think about what stops me from going, what if I had have done this? Or what if I had have done that? People should on themselves all the time. I should have done this. I should have done, yeah, I've got to clean this shit off me. I just should in my pants.
I just should it all over myself.
I
love that.
Yeah, I think what stops me from shooting all over myself and wondering, what if I had have done this? Well, I didn't do that. And if I had have changed something in the past, I potentially mightn't have the kids that I have or have the friends and relationships that I have and all of that sort of jazz. So, yeah,
So don't mess with the space-time continuum.
Yeah, no, don't fuck with it.
Perfect. Okay, well, that was all of the questions I have for today. So thank you so much for being a willing participant and sharing part of your Storyverse with everybody. If people want to find more of Tim, if this wasn't enough and they want to soak up more Tim, where can they find you? Are you on the socials? Where should they go looking?
I am on the socials. I'm on the IG. I am on the LinkedIn, and I will soon be setting up some sort of a platform on YouTube to share my lots of littles adventure and doing all of these little things and exploring the compounding impacts.
Fabulous. Life. Okay, so I will link to where they can connect with you. But if they join your journey now on Instagram, then once your platform is up, they'll be able to jump on board right from the start.
Fantastic. Yes, that is true.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Tim.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it has.
It wasn't as painful as I thought it'd be.
I didn't hurt?
No, not at all.
Oh, well, I'll try harder next time.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks.